Well, hello there, and welcome to the Transformation for Success television show, The Total Woman. Today, I am so excited and want to welcome you in the studio audience. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate you, and we love you, we love you. Today on The Total Woman show, we have a gentleman, Mr. John Jubilee. You know, it's okay to have gentlemen on the show, The Total Woman show. But first of all, I want to give a caveat that I give every week, that the comments that we make on this show are ours uniquely to own. Some of the things that we state, you may agree, you may not agree, but that's okay. We love you anyway. So thank you for viewing today. I have my co-host with me, Dr. Carol Soloway, who is a medical examiner and chiropractor. So we're going to hear about her a little bit later on in the show. But first of all, I want to welcome our guest today, John Jubilee. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Well, I'm so honored to be here.
Well, I'm telling you, look, this is America's cellular health authority, let me tell you, and a best-selling author that has a book out that you've got to get that's called Be the Best You Ever. He has an incredible story, and I tell you very frankly, I met John a few months, maybe last year, and I heard him speak at a mastermind event, and I was so impressed with his story that it resonated with me, and the fact that he has such a sweet spirit. You really, really do, John, and I really want to welcome you on the show again today.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
I want you to share, because look at you, all fit and firm and fine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean, can we say that? Yes. Can I say that? Yes, I can. I tell you, these are my statements, mine uniquely to own. But anyway, John, tell me a little bit about your background, because I know you had some health challenges when you were younger. So just take me back to when this began and you began to discover some things about yourself and you wanted to make some changes, because this show is about transforming your lives.
Sure. Well, and first of all, thank you again. And likewise back at you. I mean, is this woman incredible? Are you kidding me?
Amazing.
And at 50 she looks like that. Come on.
Thank you, John.
I didn't know she was that old.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really been the joy of my life. It's one of those unique journeys that I never would consider myself an ambitious person, but I believe in destiny. And I say that because I had an incredible mother that raised 4 kids, single mom, inner city, abject poverty. So we grew up a very hard, difficult life, a lot of drugs and death and murder and a lot of very, very difficult adversity.
Yes.
But after overcoming all that adversity, and that's part of my story, because even part of health is how we overcome adversity.
Absolutely.
And challenges. And so both of my brothers were murdered, so I've had to
No.
Yes,
No.
and 12 of my friends.
No.
So I had to deal with forgiveness issues. When something of that type of a traumatic happens in your life. There was alcoholism, there was child abuse. And I share this because so many people look at health that they just think about dieting or exercise. It's so much more than that.
That's true.
So because of this compilation of all of these extremely adverse, colorful, I call them colorful life experiences that I had.
Indeed.
I ended up at a stage where, thankfully I was very blessed. God just gives us gifts. We can't take any credit for it. But, as a child in school, I was quoting encyclopedias. I have photographic memory and mathematician.
Fantastic.
And so this helped later on because when I did have my own health issues and I began to research thousands of pages of science. And I'm a simplifier of complex things. I look at those big equations on a board and just solve it in 1 second. And so my brain just works to simplify things that are normally complex. So that became very important because in my frustration, in my own frustration, and I'm sure many of your viewers have experienced this as well, it's what I call false hope for sale. We have all these programs and everybody try this, try that, try this, try that. And I had spent myself tens of thousands of dollars trying everything.
Wow.
And here's what I learned. Everything works for a minute.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But life's a lot longer than a minute. So in that frustration is what birthed me doing all of this self-study. And in this, what I discovered was a couple things that really is like a magical key of science, was that the human body has a cellular cycle. It's 88 days. So in that 88-day cycle, I realized, okay, so it really doesn't take that long if you're doing the right thing. And the key is the cell. And all of us have billions of cells. And if a cell is healthy, every doctor can tell you if your cells are healthy, you're healthy.
But John, let me go back to your experiences in childhood. You had two brothers who were murdered. There was a lot of drugs, a lot of alcoholism in the family. How did this impact you in terms of physically you? And then you were very bright. You explained, and you could figure things out. You're pretty smart. What did you end up professionally becoming? I understand from a little bit about you, I know, that you were in the banking industry?
Yes, well, because of that mathematic mindset, yes, I got in banking at a very young age. I was the youngest level 12 manager in America. I had 220 bank branches when I was 30 years old.
Right. Wow, go-getter you were.
And so I innovated a lot of things in banking, but it was during that time of just that, white collar lifestyle, right, that I developed, this, 10-inch bigger waist.
No, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did. I looked like I was following a truck tire.
And did you have man boobs too?
And I had the man boobs to go with it.
Okay.
I had the man boobs to go with it. And now I don't want people to think I still have man boobs. And I want to take my jacket off.
Oh, go for it.
So in the midst of that, and I was bone on bone in my knees from playing sports when I was younger and from running, and so I literally, had no cartilage left in my knees.
Can I ask, how much weight were you? I mean, what was your weight? Your pounds. How much did you weigh with this big belly?
If you can just picture, for all of us, we can all picture a loaf of bread. So a loaf of bread is about 4 pounds, would be 4 pounds of fat, if it was fat. So I had about 10 extra loaves.
10?
Of bread. Now look, I'm
Wow. Don't show too much now.
The women.
I'm teasing. But it's unbelievable. And when I met you and heard about your story, that's why I wanted to have you to share with this audience, because you share all over the world. I know you're speaking to people all over the world. But I mean, it's just hard to imagine 4 loaves of bread. Wow.
Yes. Well, and the worst part is how you feel.
Yeah.
Is how you feel.
Right.
And the other thing I learned scientifically was what makes a cell healthy is for it to be hydrated. But most of our cells...
Speaking of, should I be drinking this?
Most of our cells are as hard as this glass tabletop. And so we can pour all the water we want on this tabletop. None of it's going to uptake. And if we lose just 10% of our hydration, and listen to me carefully on this, 10% of our hydration, 50% of our brain synapses shut off. 50% at just 10% dehydration.
Well, I know we lose 10% of our disc height, 10% of the fluid within our discs by the time we're 50, 60. Yeah, absolutely.
So imagine how many of us are at least 10% dehydrated. You lose 50% of your brain synapses. And now those 8 parts of your brain, it's like a California traffic jam. The pathways aren't clear anymore. And so now, if you can't clearly think in all of your pathways and how the brain is designed, that's what onsets anxiety, depression, and challenges, and then we begin to self-medicate.
Well, tell me this. Being that you were this overweight businessman, and then I understand you were a father of 3 children, so you're raising a family. Were you emotionally distraught? What do you the reason why I'm asking this is to find out why the weight gain. What was happening emotionally, spiritually, because it impacts everything, because we're a 3-part human being.
Sure, absolutely.
And were you sedentary also?
Well, and definitely what happened in mine was the fact that, with taking care of children, taking care of business, become less active. and then it's a vicious cycle, right? It becomes the vicious, you're falling down the rabbit hole. You stop exercising, now you're eating more, you feel worse, so now emotionally you're going to eat to make yourself feel a little bit better, which makes you a little worse physically, all of that. And then as our cells dehydrate, our arteries get smaller. The artery gets smaller, blood pressure goes up.
But see, you're talking about all these things that happen that you've discovered all of this. So you're talking like the discovery that people understand, but how did you get from here to this discovery of all of this cellular, activity and what's necessary?
Yes, and isn't it fascinating that it's out of my own pain, out of my own pain, my own pain of realizing, I'm in a deep dark hole. I've bought everything money can buy.
Right.
A lot of false hope, because I would buy anything that they would tell me would help me.
Okay.
And I realized it all works for a minute.
Okay.
In my frustration, when I studied this, and I said, look, at the end of the day, thousands of pages of research, I realized there's only 10 things to do to make a cell healthy. And I'm going to do these 10 things for 88 days.
Did you read about that somewhere? About the cell nutrition?
It literally was like an Indiana Jones movie of finding a lost treasure.
Yeah.
It was
good analogy.
It was connecting all of these magical, mysterious dots of, this appears to be the magic formula. And 88 days later, oh my word. Now realize my goal was just to feel better. I didn't care how I looked. It was to feel better.
Okay.
It just so happens the side effect was I lost all my fat. That was a side effect. And my skin got so much better. I was amazed, like, wow. So my skin looked better. My joints felt better. And then I learned after the fact from my friend, Dr. Ron Durr, Vanderbilt orthopedic surgeon. A year later, I realized I've rebuilt all my cartilage in my knees. I have the cartilage of a teenager.
Has that been done before? Had that been done before?
According to him, no.
Now, how did he determine this? Through MRIs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So literally.
Which is objective proof.
Exactly.
Can't dispute it.
That's right.
Wow.
And I love it that you use that terminology. It's one of my favorite as a scientist is to say it's indisputable. When you have a documented testimony, it's indisputable.
Right.
Somebody can say it can't be done.
But if you have the MRI studies right there, you can't dispute
when you have that type of documentation. And now I have 53,000 documented cases of people where they reverse their diabetes, they reverse their high blood pressure, arthritis, all kinds of mind issues, because again, I realized after the fact, because of opening up all of those neural pathways, and they've hooked me up to the, all these neural machines and everything as well. And I have a very high functioning, healthy neural pathways and everything, which is rare. If we had a scientist here that talks about trauma usually shuts down. So here
because your all of these neurotransmitters are pumping and don't know where they're going, and
exactly.
You're in a state of fight or flight.
Right. So it is, I would be an anomaly had I not done this. With all of the trauma that I had of child abuse and alcoholism and murders and death and poverty and
that's enough.
I mean, John, it's absolutely amazing. To look at this man today, and here you are, beautifully appointed. We would say that.
Yes,
that's a proper thing to say, and that you found the solutions. Because rarely do I have someone who has a story as severe as this. Really, truly, I didn't know all of this that had happened in your background. That is something to overcome. But the other part for me is. Did this absolutely cure the emotional part too, the emotional traumas that was going on with you? Because the physical is affected, but it also helps you emotionally as well.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because this is part of what we're trying to teach people is we are absolutely a triune being.
Yes.
You know, the mind, body, and spirit is inseparable.
Right.
You know, they've documented in cancer cases, so many people with cancer, there's unforgiveness, there are grudges, there are, you know, deep emotional traumas tied to that, a lot of stomach issues. There's such a correlation, you know, to these things. I'll tell you an interesting phenomenon in our protocol. So, you know, I've been doing this 21 years now. I did it for 10 years for free, 10 hours a day while I was in banking, because it was my true passion to help people. And I'll give credit to Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey sat me down just like this, knee to knee, toe to toe, pointing his finger. John, you got to go full time in health and wellness. You are going to change the world. And I was looking at him going, excuse me, Mr. Monetize It. I got a pretty good job here. And he said, John, I got 500 employees. I got 12 department heads. I'll give you my whole staff for free. You have to go do this. You are really going to change the world. Nobody knows the science.
That's great.
That you know. But here's what happens we'll get a phone call about 6 to 8 weeks into the 88 days. And people will say this. They'll say, look, I'm cured. My diabetes is reversed. My high blood pressure is gone. My arthritis is gone. I lost 50 pounds of fat or whatever they needed to lose. We've had people lose 175 pounds of fat, not weight.
Wow, that's amazing.
We don't teach weight loss. We teach fat loss. No way. We don't teach weight loss. No one loses one drop of water. They don't lose one drop of water. Now, most diets, everybody knows, come on, be honest. The first 10 pounds, they lose water weight.
The water weight,
Our clients lose 0 water.
But they lose the fat.
But here's what they say. Look, I'm so happy, but I got a question for you. Did I really get healthy from this 10-step protocol, or did I get healthy from these videos? Which cured me?
Wow.
Because in those videos is where I share from my own traumatic experiences of how to overcome adversity, of how to release, how to forgive, how to move on. You know, I teach a really simple 4-word statement that changes people's life. So what? Now what?
So this happened to me. I was abused as a youngster. My mom died when I was 5. So what? Now what? Now what do I do with my life? But what happens, John, is people start saying, like my own daughter, I remember, was diagnosed as a diabetic at age 9. At 12, she was asking me, why did God do this to me? Why did God do this to me? So do you find that, you know, a lot of people want to say, well, why did this happen to me? Why was I molested at 5? Or why was my dad or my mom, you know, on alcohol and drugs? Did you ever ask those questions? And say, why did this happen to me, John Jubilee? What did I ever do to deserve this? Because it just kept pouring on and pouring on and pouring on. I'm just asking that question because I know there are people out there that will say,
yes,
you're talking truth, but that's not my reality.
Yeah, well, I can really share with my personal experience. So at 9 years old, I realized my mom is so stressed. I mean, she had my brother at 18, had him at 16, had me at 18. And I barely made it because my dad took her to an abortion clinic. And she thought she's at a doctor's appointment. She got up and ran out. Now she's a single mom, teenager, no high school education. She has 2 more children. So
After you?
Yeah. 4 kids, inner city. I mean, when I say we were poor, we were poor. I didn't see spaghetti sauce till I was in 8th grade.
Bless your heart.
Like, you know, and man, was I happy to see it. I was like, wow.
You have some meat in it.
What an invention is this? Send that Chef Boyardee a thank you card. But I can tell you that even at 9 years old, my mentality was, you know, wow, God must have an amazing destiny for my life.
Because I actually thought that.
I really did. I thought, I don't know anyone that has the life that I have. I must have some amazing destiny in front of me.
But where did you get that from? I mean, you know, from within, from how? If your mother was obviously just in survival mode, correct?
Yes. Yeah, my mom was totally in survival mode for, you know, virtually my whole life, you know, for my whole life. And you can imagine with my brothers, can you imagine losing 2 sons
No.
to murder? Not one, 2 murdered.
Can't imagine it.
And, oh, by the way, my younger sister, my baby sister, was born severely crippled. Severely crippled.
No.
Dozens of surgeries. And this is part of my compassion for people was I grew up doing her physical therapy to her little legs, which were like noodles, just to try to get them so they could fit in a Forrest Gump, the Forrest Gump braces with the big leather and steel braces so she could walk like Frankenstein. And kids would make fun of her. And I'd walk her to the bus stop every day and beat those kids up for making fun of my sister. But literally, that helped. You know, I always had that heart for people to be well. But that's part of where the mentality came in that, hey, yeah, bad things happen to good people. My little sister was so innocent and so, you know, and I used to sneak in at night and hold her little toes and pray for God to give her a miracle that she could walk. And do you know what happened?
No, but we want to know.
I want to know.
When my little sister was in middle school, and imagine how she grew up. So she's got 3 older brothers. She's in all that stuff as well.
Right.
And so, and when she got to middle school, one day she took those braces off and she walked. I'd like to tell you she walked, but she didn't. She took 1 step and fell on her face.
Okay.
And she took 2 steps and she fell on her face. My little sister was black and blue, like she was hit by a semi for 2 years. I mean, she looked like, I mean, if it was today, she'd be Child Protective Services. My mom would be in jail.
Was she trying to walk in
She's
the fall?
trying to walk and fall, but she would not put those braces back on.
She had true grit also.
She would not put those braces back on. By the time she got to high school, she fell once a day and told people she was clumsy. No one knew. Now, if they ever saw her legs, because they did all these surgeries on her legs, and she had one leg better than the other, so they took some of the muscle and tried to transplant it, and then it all died.
Oh, no.
So now it was worse. And I mean, if you saw her legs, you'd say there's no physical way she could walk on these legs. It does not even physically look like it's physiologically possible. By the time she gets to her senior year, she falls like once a week. And still, no one ever knew.
Wow.
No one ever knew. Wow. Now today, she's the mother of 4 children who she homeschooled all of them. She came to me her senior year and realized where we grew up. It's very dangerous. I was a very overprotective brother. And, you know, I was not personally a violent person, but I had to fight for life and death, you know. So thank God he did give me a knockout punch to keep my brothers alive. And so my sister comes to me and she says, John, I want to date boys, but I don't want you to knock them out. And I'm looking.
That's so cute.
I'm looking at her like, oh my word, my little baby sister. I said, you can date anyone you want. She said, really? I go, yes, as long as he's born on my birthday. And I walked away. She's looking at me. About 3 weeks later, she calls me, come meet me at this restaurant. I come walking in. She's sitting there with this young man. He nervously gets up, pulls out his driver's license.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
I look at it. 9/9. He's born on my birthday.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
She's been married to him for 30 years.
Oh, my
That is
goodness.
fun. Oh,
This
wow.
is incredible. This is an incredible story, John. That's a marvelous story.
Wow.
But I tell you, that true grit, that stamina that she's going to walk, she was determined.
Well, you know
Where
how many
did she
steps,
get that from, I wonder? Is this in the DNA?
Well, you know how many steps it takes for a toddler to walk? It takes 11,000 tries. Can you imagine how many tries your sister went through?
That's right. That's the chiropractor over here speaking.
No, I'm in awe.
but you know,
It has
yeah.
nothing. That
Yeah,
is
but I know.
amazing that she would try so many times.
Yes.
What did Churchill say? The only way to succeed is to go from failure to failure with equal enthusiasm, which
She
Absolutely.
did.
Absolutely.
And it's
Obviously.
amazing that she was able to have 4 children. And were her legs strong enough, to carry a pregnancy? You know what I mean?
yeah.
No, she's a miracle to this day.
Wow.
She's a miracle to this day.
That is amazing.
And she's
story.
so humble and graceful. And she shares with women in private settings. She shares with women. She encourages them. And she doesn't like the camera. She's like, don't you ever put me on camera. She doesn't like the camera. But in solo settings, she shared. And she was abused and molested as a young girl. And she shares with women to encourage them. Doesn't define you.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't define you.
right.
She said it's like getting hit by a bus. It happened to you, but it's not who you are. And she
Well, you know,
powerfully shares that.
This is really divinely orchestrated, because I know we're talking about your story and what you found, and we're going to have you back on another show where we're going to get in depth about the cellular structure and all of that you teach and talk about. But this was, to me, divinely appointed for some of you out there who are listening, who may be going through something and it would seem very minor compared to John's story, and more importantly, the story of his sister. That just inspires me. So any of you out there who are just kind of, whimpering along and you've got just a little minor thing to even get through, this should inspire you. The faith that she had. You just keep trying. I fall down, but I get up.
Oh,
I
that's
love it. I fall down, but I get up. Oh, and look at you. To come out of this is an incredible story, though, for many people for you to share. And I want to thank you for being so transparent and authentic to share your story in such depth, because it's really interesting. I want to know, is your mom still alive today?
My mom is alive and well. She's feisty as all get out. And my mom had a very significant, powerful, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And 30 years ago, my mom met and married a man. And every dream I had ever heard her speak out of her mouth as a little boy, she wanted to raise racehorses. She wanted to travel the world. Every dream was fulfilled with this man.
Wow.
And he just passed away.
Oh.
And so what did
Sorry
my
to
mom
hear
do?
that.
My mom bought a 40-foot trailer. She bought a 40-foot trailer.
I didn't see her on the road. We have a 40-foot trailer.
She bought a 40-foot trailer. She renovated it. She took all of his tools and her tools and made a place for it. She bought a truck, and now she travels to places where there are disasters, and she repairs and paints and helps and counsels families that are in dramatic and traumatic.
What a tremendous legacy. Wow. What a tremendous legacy. Oh my goodness. I am so thankful to have you on the show today to really share with folks, not only your sister, but your mom, a true trooper who did not give up.
No.
Because there's so many women that I know of, and men, and that have just given up. But there is hope. And I'm so glad that you're here to share that today. This has been a bonus.
Wow. Amazing.
To me, I'm ready to go out there and do some more fighting myself. You know what? Yeah. Can't keep a good woman down.
I have a trailer for you.
Oh, yeah. She does. She has this trailer. We're going to talk about this trailer on one of the shows. And you got to come back and listen to part 2. I'm going to have John on next week's show. So you've got to download the show. You got to go listen to it. I said download because I'm used to being on the radio too. But I'm going to have John on the radio show too in a couple of weeks, and we'll be announcing that. So you can see him on TV and you can hear him on the radio as well. So I want to thank you today and thank my guest in the audience. So happy you were here. I know this was an incredible show today. Thank you, John. Thank you, Carol. I want to say bye to all of you in the audience, and thank you so much for listening and viewing the show today. This is Dr. Barbara Young. I'm signing off. Total Woman Show, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Yoo-hoo! Y'all